Yes, it is fall camp season for the current Wisconsin Badgers, but it is also NFL training camp season for the former Wisconsin Badgers. Today, we're going to take a deep dive in what is part one of a little bit of a series here we got cooking at where the current Wisconsin Badgers in the NFL are. And of course, we're going to find out, will Russ cook? That's what we're talking about today on Talkin Badgers. Yes, it is Talkin Badgers powered by BadgerNotes.com, your place to talk Badgers. I'm your host, Kedrick Stumbris. You can follow me on Blue Sky and the website formerly known as Twitter at Kedrick Stumbris. And of course, follow this podcast on your podcast platform of choice. You can find us on YouTube, youtube.com/@TalkinBadgers. While you are here, hit that subscribe button, smash the like button. Let us know down in the comments what Wisconsin Badger you are most excited to watch in the NFL this season. But of course, who we have to start with first and foremost, it's Russell Wilson. Is Russell Wilson going to cook with the New York Giants this upcoming season? I'm not so convinced. After what we saw him do in Pittsburgh, it was maybe passable to get to the playoffs as a team that was really led by one of the best defenses in football, of course, headlined by another very standout former Wisconsin Badger. But now with the New York Giants, Russell Wilson's going to be made to shoulder a lot more of the load in East Rutherford. And it might be a bit of a challenge for him. It might be a challenge given that this New York Giants offensive line is a mess. And that's what Russ has to work with in front of him. Frankly, the most reliable piece on that offensive line is probably Andrew Thomas at left tackle, but he hasn't played a full season since 2022. He's already starting training camp on the physically unable to perform list after he didn't take part in off-season activities because he got injured last October. It's a rough offensive line situation there that Russ is walking into. Pro Football Network had the other four offensive line positions outside of left tackle ranking in the bottom third in the league in pressure rate last year. Ugh. And it's not like this team improved their offensive line in the draft a lot. They waited until pick 154 to take an offensive lineman. They took an interior lineman, and it was the only offensive lineman the Giants took in the draft this year. So maybe Russ is going to be running for his life quite a bit while he is a New York Giant. And just earlier today, as I'm recording this on Friday, August 1st, Brian Daboll was behind the podium telling reporters that, hey, he thinks Russ is still a little athletic. He's still got a bit left in the tank at 36 years old, complimenting Russ, saying he's good on the run throwing, he's good on the run running. He's been plenty fast enough on some scrambles, making some guys miss. Glad that Russ can scoot a little bit because he just might have to. So let's go over to some of these younger former Wisconsin Badgers on the other side of MetLife Stadium. And that would be Braelon Allen and Joe Tippmann playing for the New York Jets. I think it's probably going to be a tough year for both teams at MetLife, but in terms of running back play, Braelon Allen, Breece Hall, that's a nice 1-2 punch, I think, at running back, as long as they get something going. And certainly Justin Fields, who the Jets brought in this offseason, he can scoot a little bit on his own, but they're going to have to do it also behind an offensive line that has a lot of questions. Of course, Joe Tippmann anchoring that at the center spot, but all five of the Jets' projected starters at offensive line are under 30 years old. It's looking like it's going to be at right tackle, Armand Membou, the rookie out of Mizzou, and then Olu Fashanu at left tackle, stepping in his second year, taking the full-time starting role after making 5 starts at left tackle as a rookie. Joe Tippmann's going to have to show some leadership at center. And there's going to be plenty of opportunities for Braelon Allen, I assume, to run the ball on the ground, even if there's a good chance the Jets are playing from behind more often than not this upcoming season. Another offensive lineman who has some notoriety in the AFC East, who made his bones in Madison, Wisconsin, that is David Edwards. That is Super Bowl champion with the Los Angeles Rams, David Edwards, who now steps into his third season in Buffalo, starting at left guard on that offensive line. And David Edwards is knocking on the door, trying to win himself a second Super Bowl ring. And he does so with an offensive line that returns all 5 starters. All 5 starters returning in Buffalo on the offensive line after protecting Josh Allen to his first MVP season a year ago. That's huge. Edwards started 16 games at left guard last year, and that continuity could be the key to help Buffalo finally break through and get past, be it Kansas City, be it the Ravens, just get past that AFC title game and get themselves to a Super Bowl for the first time in quite some time. And let's knock out our final AFC East Badger. It's the lifeblood of the Wisconsin Badgers program. It is fullback Alec Ingold. Fullback Alec Ingold. First and foremost, I am just overwhelmingly pleased to see a fullback making himself into is he into his 6th year? 6th or 7th year. This would be Alec Ingold's 7th NFL season. That is phenomenal. Alec Ingold in a league that has basically eliminated the fullback position. He is sticking around in this league with multiple teams, but not bouncing around too much. He's only been with the Raiders and with the Dolphins. And clearly, this is a Dolphins offensive staff that really does rely on Alec Ingold. He played 38% of offensive snaps a year ago. And if you're Mike McDaniel, he's a guy who clearly has a philosophy. He wants to sling the ball, but values having Alec Ingold out there. Clearly, Ingold has made himself just a too valuable piece of this offense to keep off the field all the time. And he's going to have to play a big blocking role on this team, I presume, again, because he doesn't run with the rock a ton. Mike McDaniel gives Alec Ingold a chance or two now and then to catch the ball out of the backfield. He'll get it on a check down now and then. But primarily, Alec Ingold's role on this team is a blocking role. I presume that's what it's going to be this year as well. Of course, but being a fullback, it's kind of hard to tell. But my assumption is that Ingold's going to go out there and get 35 to 40% of offensive snaps, just like he has done in his past 2 seasons with Miami. And having him out there as another blocking option is going to be really important for this team that, not just because it is quarterbacked by Tua Tagovailoa, who has the injury history that he does, but also because Miami is shifting around some guys on the interior of that offensive line, bringing in 2 starters there, and also replacing one of the best offensive tackles in football in Teron Armstead, who retires. He retires as Miami's starting left tackle. And so they're bringing in 2nd-year offensive lineman Patrick Paul. I presume he's going to step in there because he played the majority of those left tackle snaps in relief last year for Armstead. And he wasn't even really average at the position. Pro Football Focus grades had him well below average. That's not the end-all be-all, but it means there are going to be blocking opportunities for Alec Ingold, I think, out there. And regardless of what happens this year for the Miami Dolphins, regardless of what happens for Alec Ingold, do I think he's going to get to a 2nd Pro Bowl like he didn't, like he got to his first in 2023? Probably not. But regardless of all of it, it is tremendous to see a fullback carving themselves out a role with a team in the National Football League for a 7th season. A 7th season. Tremendous for us sickos who want to see folks run the dang ball. Before we move on, we're going to move into the other 3 NFC East teams after we started with Danger Russ Wilson in the very first portion of the show here. We're going to move on to the other 3 teams in the NFC East. But if you like this, if you like this idea of running through with a little bit of a tidbit on each of these players who are lining up for their respective NFL teams and our former Wisconsin Badgers, let me know down in the comments. Let me know what you want us to focus on for this show. We want this to be a community-driven show. Hit that like button to show your support. Hit that subscribe button if you have not yet on your platform of choice. I want to do basically 4 of these episodes, one each of these next few weeks before we reach week 1 of the NFL season, before the Wisconsin Badgers in Madison actually kick off the year. So let me know if you like this concept. We'll keep doing it, and hopefully be able to give you an update now and then in season. Although, of course, with the actual college football, college basketball season going on, things will get a little bit more crazy around here. But let's move on to Barry Alvarez grandson, Jake Ferguson. We already talked about Braelon. He's only 17, Allen. It is now time to talk about Jake Barry Alvarez grandson, Ferguson, with the Dallas Cowboys. He is one of these former Wisconsin Badgers in the NFL who got himself paid this offseason. He gets a 4-year, $50 million deal with $21.4 million guaranteed at signing. And if you're following the machinations of the National Football League, Dallas, they can be a little stingy from time to time with paying players their money. Micah Parsons requesting a trade earlier today. Fascinating. But after a really rough year offensively for the Dallas Cowboys, not really able to sustain anything through the air or on the ground, probably the lack of that offense's ability to have a rushing attack hindered its ability to pass the ball. Now they're going to look to bounce back in first year under head coach Brian Schottenheimer. Of course, Mike McCarthy getting the axe in the offseason. This Dallas Cowboys offense still has a lot of top-end talent. Dak Prescott quarterbacking, CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens at wide receiver as well, after Dallas went out and got him in a trade with the Pittsburgh Steelers. Was also in a contract year. And we all know those contracts do not come easy for Dallas Cowboys. There's just a lot of top-end offensive talent there, even if there's not a big running threat there. Going to be fascinating. Interestingly, one of the large handful of running backs in that room, at least now in training camp, is Hunter Lipke, who went to North Dakota State, but he is a Spencer, Wisconsin native, by the way. Moving over, a former Dallas Cowboys offensive lineman turned Washington Commanders offensive lineman. Yes, it is Tyler Biadasz, the former starting center for the Dallas Cowboys, turned starting center for the Washington Commanders. And he's got Michael Deiter there with him. These are 2 guys who played alongside each other in Madison, and now Deiter is backing up Biadasz at center in Washington for the 2nd year in a row, and there is just so much buzz with this Washington Commanders team after Jaden Daniels did what he did a season ago. It was really impressive. The Commanders got themselves to an NFC Championship game. They knocked off the number 1 seed in the NFC, the Detroit Lions, in the process in that divisional round. Yeah, Commanders were 1 game away from Super Bowl appearance a year ago, and now they're going to hope to get back there, adding Laramie Tunsil at left tackle, who he is still an excellent left tackle, and I am sure a welcome addition to the unit that Tyler Biadasz is anchoring in the middle there. Should be a fascinating offense there, and hopefully, Tyler Biadasz and Michael Deiter have some success in leading them somewhere beyond where they got last year. But there is one former Wisconsin Badger in the NFC East who really might have something to say about that, like he did a season ago in that NFC title game. And that is Zack Baun. That is Zack Baun of the Philadelphia Eagles. He got himself paid this past offseason. Zack Baun kicked inside last year at linebacker. He put himself in the Defensive Player of the Year conversation after playing on a 1-year prove-it deal. And prove it, Zack Baun did, earning himself a 3-year, $51 million deal with $34 million guaranteed. Gee willikers. That is Zack Baun of the Philadelphia Eagles. Just huge for this guy to get that big contract after making an immediate impact on that defense that was the best in the league last year. It was a defense that had a league best success rate allowed. He was only one of 2 players a season ago. 2 players since the turn of the century have notched 150 plus tackles and 5 forced fumbles, and Zack Baun was one of the 2 since the turn of the century. To post those marks, awesome to see him do it, and that Philadelphia Eagles defense should stay stout. They have so many young guys on that side of the ball. Jalen Carter, Quinion Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, just a ton of guys over there who are still on rookie contracts who should continue to make impacts alongside Zack Baun running through the middle. He had a tremendous year last year, and of course capped it, basically calling game before the first half ended in the Super Bowl with that athletic diving interception, putting the Eagles on the doorstep of going up 24-0 before that halftime buzzer even sounded. So that is our check-in with the Wisconsin Badgers of the AFC and the NFC East. Again, if you liked this, if you like this idea of us just running through, checking, you're curious about where some of these guys are in the NFL and getting a little bit of a tidbit here, there about them, let me know. Let me know down in the comments. Hit the like button if you do enjoy this. Like I said, if y'all are up for it, we're going to do this, 3 more times for the end of the off season, before the end of the preseason. We're going to get after it, let you know where some of these Wisconsin Badgers are in the NFL. And maybe we'll have to do a whole show about the Wisconsin Badgers on the Pittsburgh Steelers defense, because that could take some time with all the guys they got over there. But hey, if you enjoyed this, that's excellent. We're going to be back on Monday talking more about what we've seen in the first week of the Wisconsin Badgers fall camp. For Talkin Badgers, I've been your host, Kedrick Stumbris. You can follow me on the website formerly known as Twitter at Kedrick Stumbris, also on Blue Sky. If you want to read more of our work with the latest news, analysis, and film breakdowns of the Wisconsin Badgers, head over to badgernotes.com. We would love to have your support. But until we talk to you all again very soon, on Wisconsin.